There hasn't been a show all year with better riders and worse results. This was a wild week of show jumping, from the Rolex Grand Slam in Geneva to the million on offer in the MLSJ team final to the World Cup in Riyadh. We're giving out our best and our worst ratings yet. Horse Bytes is brought to you in part by My Show Advisor. Thanks to My Show Advisor, we knew where to stay, how to get there, and all our horse show travel needs on our way to Geneva. Welcome to Horse Bytes, your 5 and 10, 5-star show jumping, all in just, well, almost 10 minutes. With electric crowds of over 48,000 people filling the Expo in Geneva, our sport actually felt important this week. But hold your hats, everyone. Horse Bytes is going savage. Normally on Horse Bytes, we cover only the biggest classes of the week because they are the most representative of the top level of each event. But this week, I would argue that the second and third classes in Geneva were more challenging and more representative of the top level than the Grand Prix in both Riyadh and the MLSJ. It's almost impossible to compare 5-star events when we had 26 of the top 40 riders in one location and a 5-star World Cup class with only 15 riders total in another location. Plus, we had a 5-star event that saw over $1 million in prize money distributed for a $1.50 competition versus $1.60. The dichotomy between the good and the bad this week was extreme. Don't get me wrong, Geneva is an incredible event that has the prestige and is arguably one of the best shows of the year. But the question we keep coming back to is, how do we define top sport? Is it entertainment level for the spectators? Is it wild moments that are shocking and unexpected? Is everyone just like a train wreck? Is it watching the best compete against the best only? These are all hard questions to answer, and we saw them pop up again and again this week. Some love the carnage and find it entertaining. Others think it's dangerous and unnecessary, while plenty of people love to watch horses and riders go really fast, even if they're at a lower level. Geneva hosted the final major of the season, where Martin Fuchs took a hat trick, winning 3 of the 5 big classes of the week, but couldn't pull out the Grand Slam win in the Grand Prix. Harrie Smolders and Monaco finally got their fairy tale ending after 11 second-place finishes. David Will took the World Cup in Riyadh, and Connor Swale helped lead the Trelawney Trailblazers repeat their overall season title in the MLSJ team competition. There's a lot to cover this week, so let's get right into the main action from Geneva. On Friday night, we saw the Rolex IJRC Top 10 final take place. The world's top 10 ranked riders contested a 2-round course, many aboard their top horses. The main story, of course, is Martin Fuchs' exceptional win on Leone J. With a 79% clear rate at the $1.60 level, it's no surprise. But amazingly, Martin wasn't even supposed to jump. It was only after getting a last-minute call to replace Connor Swale, whose horse's flight had been canceled and couldn't make the trip, that he made the best of his good fortune.
He just said, hey buddy, you're in, so now go and win it.
It was absolutely top sport, with 6 of the 10 jumping clear in the first round. The first round course was big and challenging enough, although many people thought it was softer than previous years. Overall, Richie probably had the roughest day, with the only 8-fault round after an uncharacteristically casual ride. Mostly everyone rode the first round as quickly and efficiently as possible in order to secure the best position in round 2. World number 1, Henrik von Eckermann and King Edward, finished in pole position and would come back last in the jump-off. Ben Mayer and Point Break, who jumped the most precise first round, jumped the first double clear, but his lead wouldn't last long as Martin Fuchs was off to the races even before the start timers. His round was lightning fast as he left out strides, sliced back to the spooky cow wall, sliced inside to the tricky Liverpool on the angle, and kicked like hell to the last to do the super long 8 and take over the lead. It was virtually unbeatable despite the rest of the class trying to catch him. Ken Farrington and Tulane gave it a good go, but got a bit stuck in his turn back to the wall, ended up a bit deep, had to push to the Oxer, which screwed up his inside turn to the Liverpool, and it all snowballed from there. Eventually, he would clock in between Martin and Ben to finish in second. There was only one contender left, and it was Henrik von Eckermann and his King Edward. They were a bit under the pace from the start, with one added stride back on the wall. Henrik tried to make up time with a tough slice to the vertical after the double. King Edward was a bit insecure and didn't get his eye on the jump, eventually running out and squashing any hopes of a win. The class was Martin's, and the ecstatic Swiss rider added the elusive title to his overall career victories for the very first time. It was also incredible to see the great camaraderie between the top 10, who all high-fived and congratulated Martin on a spectacular win. And now on to the main event, the Rolex Grand Prix. The final major of the year, part of the Grand Slam of show jumping. Martin Fuchs came in as the live contender and the favorites on a 9% win chance, having won Spruce Meadows back in September, but was unable to continue his bid. Overall, it was a very challenging course, as it should be, where 21 of the top 30 riders in the world participated. But the course designer eventually got 25% clear, with 10 making it into the jump-off. To be honest, the first round saw an insane start. Carl Cook got us kicked off with Caracol. They went first and had trouble right off the bat to number 2, and his troubles continued as he fell through the difficult black and white Oxer and then retired. Returning champions Richie Vogel and United Touch couldn't get it together and finished a messy round with 3 down.
Then, oh my word.
Marcus Erynn completely misjudged the distance to the black and white Oxer out of the blind turn and crashed through the jump and promptly retired. Then came Harrie Smolders, who made the course look simple as could be and became the Pathfinders from round 1.
Harrie Smolders, yes!
We quickly saw 2 in a row, with world number 1 Henrik von Eckermann and King Edward jumping clear as well.
I'm very happy for him. He's had a difficult week.
A couple later, the Swiss superstar Martin Fuchs kept his dream alive, jumping clear with Leonie J to thunderous applause from the crowd. Yuri Manser was another one to falter at that black and white Oxer as Vitiki swam through it and they retired. Then another crazy moment when Max Kuhner completely misjudged the line from the plank to the double Liverpools, tried to do 5 instead of 6 strides and swam through A. Like Richie Vogel and Hans-Dieter Dreyer, Stefan de Freitas Barcha and Chevaux Primavera Imperio fell apart at the end, unable to balance his horse's stride into the final double and aggressively taken out 12A.
With this outstanding horseman, we say farewell to VDL Cartello.
Derek Kenny and Cartello, in their final outing together as the stallion is now set to retire, almost got their fairy tale ending. And with Dara having an 83% clear rate in Grand Slam classes, their fault at 12B was heartbreaking. Legacy and Daniel Coyle were a disaster at the double Liverpools. Steve Gerda and Dynamic struggled early on as the mare kept losing her front end, and they eventually retired. Peter Fredrickson and McLean Ward pulled out the final 2 clears, however. It was the plank that caused the most trouble on the course, falling 11% of the time, while the triple also caused huge problems with A and B falling a lot. With the open 7 strides into the combination, horses were off balance coming in and held themselves off, kind of karate chopping the back pole as riders anticipated the short 1 and often sat up too early. There was something not beautifully smooth about the course. It was a bit choppy and desperate at times, and we certainly saw some of the most dramatic, unforced errors from the world's best riders. But then it was on to the jump-off. 10 made it through, and we got to witness something that so rarely happens. The first out the gate proved to be the best. It is virtually impossible to win a big Grand Prix going first, as Harrie explained.
So they're all watching, they know how to copy you and where to leave a stride out to go fast. So I think I put the bar quite high straight away. And that's why they took more and more risk, and that's where the mistakes came from.
Harrie certainly set that bar high and had to sit tight and wait and see how things unfolded after he put the pressure on. It would turn out to be a wild ride, with a number of riders criticizing the jump offer being too difficult and borderline unjumpable. The first turn back to the huge Oxer at number 2 was a major early test, catching out Henrik and King Edward, who would face their 3rd run out in under a week between La Coruña, the top 10 final, and this Grand Prix. Clearly, they have lost some trust in one another and will have to go back to the drawing board. Martin's dream of winning the €500,000 bonus and staying on track to complete the Grand Slam also came crashing down as the stride didn't come up right and he was a mile off the Oxer at number 2. Lorenzo De Luca and Denver De Talma looked on track to catch Harrie, but his risky slice to the penultimate proved too difficult, and Denver took his eye off the jump, stuttered, and stopped, pitching Lorenzo off the front of the horse, ending in a dismount. Gregory Wathelet also had number 2 down and took out the wing of the double Liverpools to finish on 8. Giulia Martinengo Marquet was in next and laid down a super clear to slot her into 2nd. She was 2 seconds off the pace, with some wider turns and a more conservative approach, but her strategy would pay off to keep her on the podium. We saw Gilles Thomas and the steady and consistent Hermitage Cologne contest the course next. They weren't on track to catch Harrie, but a smooth clear would slot them into 3rd. Peter Fredrickson and his 18-year-old Catch Me Not S suffered the same fate as fellow countryman Henrik von Eckermann when the gelding also ran out at number 2, squashing their hopes of a Grand Slam title. And then it was the last to go, McLean Ward and Elex. They were jumping great and turning quick, looking like Harrie was going to finish second for the 12th time, but with a rail at the last, he'd eventually finish in 4th. McLean would catch Harrie's time, but unable to keep the jumps in the cups, victory was Harrie's at last. And how cool is this Ghost Rider video from Alogo Technologies? Love to see innovation in the way we consume our sport. The class brought tons of mixed emotions from the fans. Many fellow athletes criticized the course for being way too hard, while the spectators saw exciting and super challenging moments. It did feel a bit like watching who would survive rather than who was the fastest, but I was thrilled with the result. Harrie was a well-deserved winner, taking home 400,000 euros. It felt like hard-fought top sport, and I was sufficiently entertained. The only thing really missing from the event was women. With only 10% of the athletes in Geneva being female and only 3 women qualifying and jumping the Grand Prix, gender equality in our sport doesn't actually feel equal. Have a listen to Erynn Ballard and Giulia Martinengo Marquet's differing thoughts on the issue.
It's undoubtedly connected with the responsibilities that still society gives to women. And actually, I mean, there are things that we can do and men can't. So if for us it's still a priority, have family, kids or whatever, it's hard to put everything together.
So my take on it would be that we need to turn a little bit better, and that would come from strength that we don't naturally have.
Despite the lack of female representation, we did still get exciting sport in Geneva. It was the sad news of Foxy De La Roque's colic surgery, however, that tainted an otherwise exciting week. We all wished we would have gotten to see the mare compete one last time with Victor Bettendorf, but from all accounts, the mare is currently doing okay, and we wish everyone involved a safe and speedy recovery. Moving over to the Middle East, we saw the 5-star World Cup qualifier in Riyadh. Now, it's relatively shocking that we are talking about Geneva and this particular World Cup qualifier in the same vein, but here we are. Funnily enough, we saw the top 10 riders in the world compete in Geneva, and only 15 riders jumped in total in Riyadh, the highest ranked rider who was 36th in the world. The world ranking points awarded weren't the same because of the small stars list, but riders still had a chance to get some big prize money. With virtually no atmosphere or really anyone in the stands and 6 jumping clear, in the end, it wasn't much of a class at all. Sure, it was a great buy as a rider. Little to no competition, significantly simpler courses, and almost 300,000 in prize money. If you were going to Geneva, this was the place to be. Then again, I'm not sure we can really call this 5-star level sport, and for FEI World Cup coverage, this was the weakest we've seen all season. Unclear live stream graphics and minimal production value. All of that being said, however, David Will put in a nice double clear for the win on Zinedream. You might have said the favorite going in was Odense Odeveld and Emanuele Camilli, who have been winning a ton this fall in North America, but they had an uncharacteristic 8 faults. Yoli Mitilineu had a lovely double clear on L'Artiste de Toxandra with a great ride to the last jump and would eventually finish in 3rd. Christian Allman gave a good effort on Mandato, but were eventually beaten out by over a second and a half by David and Zinedream, who took the win on the final round. The young Palestinian athlete Igor Shkibrik had 1 down, but was the only rider in the jump-off to receive World Cup final points, as this was his home league, and the rest of the top finishers were all European and weren't eligible. And finally, the MLSJ concluded in California this week with the team final. Usually $1 million in prize money is something to write home about, but this week it was low on the totem pole. That being said, it was actually really exciting sport. The Trelawney Trailblazers won again for the 2nd year in a row after an exciting showdown. Maccabi United were in the lead going into the final competition, but after missing the cutoff for the 2nd round, they dropped down the leaderboard and the title race was between the Roadrunners and the Trailblazers. In the first jump off, a costly fault from Ashley Bond and Donatello forced the Roadrunners into 4th for the day and would cause them to finish 2nd in the overall.
tonight. One fence remains for Connor
The
Swale.
Trailblazers had already secured the victory going into the gold medal deciding round, but Connor Swale's utter domination across the league led to an MVP title, the overall individual title, the overall team title, the fastest round of the day, and the Trailblazers won their third and final leg of the season. It's safe to say that the 11th ranked rider in the world made the best of his misfortune when he was unable to attend Geneva this week. Well, we got some of the best 5-star show jumping of the year this week, and some of the weakest, to be honest, but in the end, that's what sport is. Now time for the final ratings. In Geneva, I'd give the top 10 final an 8.72 for unbelievable atmosphere, but not the most challenging course. The Rolex Grand Prix gets a 9.1 for the strongest field strength of any Grand Prix ever contested, and huge entertainment, but a brutal jump-off. Riyadh gets a cutthroat score of 2.7 for missing the bar on all points, while the MLSJ team final gets a 6.7 for low course difficulty since it was only meter 50, but still good sport. Well, that's a wrap on this week's highlights. It was an incredible display of sport to finish off the year for many athletes. Don't miss our yearly wrap-up and some special content over the coming weeks. Plus, we will make sure to bring you the winners through the end of the year, but of course, we'll be back in the new year bringing you all the highlights weekly right here on Horse Bytes. But before you go, check out our favorite moment from the week. Without a doubt, it was Martin Fuchs' little happy dance after winning the Rolex IJRC Top 10 class in Geneva. Finally, a top athlete showing some pure, unadulterated emotion for winning a class he dreamed of winning since he was a child. That's what we want to see, joy and happiness and excitement for a wonderful achievement. Congrats again, Martin, well deserved. Plus, a bonus moment when our very own Horse Bytes team member guessed the winner of the Rolex Grand Prix and won a magnum of champagne. Stay connected to all of our socials. Subscribe, like, and follow along as it unfolds here on Horse Bytes. Your 5 and 10 5-star show jumping, all in just 10 minutes.